Happy Friday and welcome back to Social Impact Live. I'm your host, Darrell Coleman, and today I am in the weeds. I'm in the weeds of this work that we do. I'm in the weeds of this social impact effort. I'm in the weeds of my business, my social enterprise, DC Design, and one of our major programs, Design the Future. And I just thought I would bring you a message today about the work that every social entrepreneur has to do. On this channel, I talk about all the frameworks, all the methods, the approaches to creating social change that I have come to use throughout my life. I also talk about the business side of what it takes to create a social enterprise that's sustainable. But I also want to just bring you the real-time, real-life, nitty-gritty details of what it's like to get up every day and recognize that each day when you wake up, you're going to feel a little bit differently about where you are. And in reality, you're going to have somewhat different work to do on each of those days. Where I am at right now is that I am in the weeds. You see, often as a social entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur in general, as someone who's charting your own path in life and trying to think about the path that we as a society can walk also, you have to be in a few different modes. Sometimes you need to be in a visionary stage. You need to be thinking about, here's what the future could look like. Here's what I'm imagining it to look like. Here's what I think we could produce. And you're loosely putting together some of the variables that you've seen along the way. Other times, instead of being future focused, you're in the past in some ways. You're pulling in information about what's happened in history. You're trying to understand what's gone on there. You're trying to understand the frameworks and the methodologies and the mindsets that have been put forward as possible solutions to move us forward. And then there are other times, right, where you are literally just in between those things. You're in the present day and you are in the weeds. And that's where I'm at right now. So what are the weeds? The weeds is the spot where I am right now, where I am trying to figure out how to make something happen, how to make a vision happen that we've already set in motion. We've already come to believe is going to happen. I believe is going to happen, but I need to figure out how to get there. And in order to do that, there's a lot of little details that I need to figure out how to fit together in order to make that reality come true. So I want to give you a little view into what that looks like for me right now, and hopefully there's something valuable in this for you as you recognize the work that you have to do, you recognize the work that you've already done, you recognize that this is a mode that sometimes you're in yourself, whatever that might be. Recognize the weeds as I talk about them. So DC Design, we have two sides to the company. One side is a consulting firm that is focused on doing strategy work with governments, foundations, and nonprofits to help them figure out what should you actually be focused on. Can you actually connect to the people who are most impacted by these issues? That's what our work is. We root all of the things that we do in the needs of a community and the actual words and emotions that are gained from that community since they've been through those challenges themselves. We help organizations figure out the strategy, and we help them then design solutions with the community to actually move things forward, right? That's one half of my company. The other half is this educational arm, DC Design University, where we teach people how to do what we do, how to create change. And one of our oldest programs is called Design the Future, where we teach high school students how to design and launch real apps and real products for people with disabilities. Historically, we've done products. That has been what we started with. That's what my background is in. Mechanical engineering, product design, overall sustainable design, civil and environmental engineering, a whole bunch of things that are about building physical things and bringing those into the world. And I created a program that was meant to teach and did teach for 5 years high school students how to do that for people with disabilities by working alongside them. The pandemic hit, and in the midst of the pandemic, there was a choice. Either shut down this program and hope that next year we can come back to in-person learning, or adapt to the fact that there's a new normal. There's a new opportunity here in some senses because the world is going to be more connected than it's ever been before. Perhaps this is a chance to expand the impact of your Design the Future program beyond the local university surroundings that you've been limited to before, right? We've run this at universities, Stanford University, Boston University, University of Louisville, University of Kansas. But now we have a chance to say, what if you build an online program where instead of the students designing physical products, they design apps And they can do that from their home, join teams from their home, and work with project partners who have disabilities from their home as well. Right? They can get design coach guidance from college students from their home. This is the vision, and in many ways it is an adaptation of the existing program, because everything I just said to you is exactly what happens in the in-person program, but it happens in person. So I say to my team, we are going to go in a different direction. We are going to launch Design the Future Digital. And it's going to meet a number of the needs and challenges that I've heard about from our project partners and from our students and from others along the way, over the years of running this program. It's also going to meet the needs of this moment, this pandemic that we're in, where we have an opportunity to launch something like this, where there's a dearth of other opportunities. So that was the visionary stage, right? That was when we were thinking, where are we going with this in the long run? Then, there was also the elements of combining the past, right? I was pulling in the pieces of past Design the Future experience to understand what the future could look like. So those pieces were there. But now that the vision has been laid, right, and the past elements have been brought forward, there are these pieces that still need to be put together, and that is the weeds. The reality is that this is the first time that I'm ever running a program teaching people how to build apps. And while I have been a part of teams that have built apps, I've led teams that have built apps before, I am not an app builder. I'm not a UI and UX designer myself. I am not a computer scientist myself. I have basic coding skills, right? And so I need to put together this program that allows me to fully see how these students are going to get from having no skills to create apps themselves, or code necessarily, to having functional apps that help their project partners. They're going to have 2 weeks to do that. And I need to figure out the curriculum, the pacing, the steps that need to take place in between in order to make that reality true. I need to figure out the softwares that we're going to use to navigate through that virtual environment, to keep that engaging and exciting over the course of 2 weeks, right? 4 hours each day. But still make it something that's useful so that teams can actually accomplish everything they need, right? So I've been doing that work alongside my team, right? We needed to figure out all the marketing and all these other pieces, and that doesn't feel like I'm in the weeds of that anymore, because I was in the weeds of that a few months ago, whenever we were figuring out how do we change our marketing methods so that we are reaching a national/global audience of students who might be interested in this program, right? And today, right, I am diving into more no-code app software, right? I'm just giving you the transparent view of what's actually going on here. This program is going to exist. It's going to take place. It's going to be successful. But we are at the point where, for me to say that, right, is to have faith, to believe in a future that I have seen that has not yet come to exist. And what I'm trying to tell you is that the confidence I can say that with comes from a belief, ultimately, in my team, but also in this process of being in the weeds, in knowing that as a social entrepreneur, as an entrepreneur, as a person who is innovating in the world, you need to learn to believe in your ability, right, to figure out the pieces in between. For me, it's very fortunate. I have a deep faith in God as a person, as a being that created me with these powers, with these abilities, right? To think clearly and deeply about the challenge at hand and to figure out a way to innovate through that, to come up with designs, to create new things. I believe that all people are endowed with that gift to be creators, to be creative, to be people who can work through those details. We all just might need to figure out our way of doing that. But either way, no matter who you are as an innovator, as a social entrepreneur, that is something that you need to come into at some point, which is how do you work through the weeds? How do you move through the very detailed elements to go from I have a vision to these are the paces that I need to walk through in order to actually make that a reality, right? So we don't yet know which no-code software we're using. I'm diving into that right now. I think I'm narrowing in on the one that I want to use. I had some suggestions from one of my team members who's incredible, Eliza, who put together this list. I then had to go and do a review of a bunch of other ones myself as well to make sure that we weren't missing anything, make sure that none of the other ones offered functionality that would actually be crucial that I didn't know about. And so having done that, I might be returning back to the beginning, but I will know why this beginning point is the right point for us to move forward with, right? But I need to build a framework. I need to build a curriculum around this. I need to learn enough of this software to be able to guide hundreds of students through a process of using it to create real and tangible outcomes. I need to adapt more of our curriculum than has already been adapted from the past year into a digital format into this year. We need to test some new softwares on the group collaboration side as well. We need to test some new remote like whiteboarding softwares and post-it note softwares, and we need to figure out the work modes that students are going to work in. Are they going to be completely online for the entire thing? Are they going to have workbooks that they have that are physical as well, where they do some work in the workbooks and then they jump back into the digital world? How do we make the workbooks that are physical digital enough for what they're doing to translate? And then how do we do that really efficiently, because we only have 4 hours a day and we know that technical difficulties can stop you in your tracks, right? So these are all the things that we need to figure out, and I got about a month and a half to figure them out. But I am confident that we are going to get there, because my team is incredible, because we're committed, because we have a vision, a clear vision of what this looks like. But more than anything, because I have that faith, but I have that belief that I can work through the weeds. I can work through these details. Another framework I'll give you, another way of seeing this that I think about is, I am on a building, and my whole team is on this building. And there's another building over there, and we need to get to that building. And we know we can. We're on the roof, though, of the building, right? We're on the roof of this one. We're trying to get to the roof of that building. We're 15 stories up, and I know we can get there, but the only way to get there is to walk across a tightrope. The tightrope is the narrow path that we can walk to successfully and safely make it to the other side. And what we need to do is we need to figure out how to balance as we walk across that tightrope so that we have a path that feels stable enough for an entire team of people to get there. Now, that sounds dramatic, probably, and challenging, and it should, because that's the reality of doing social impact work at times. Sometimes to create the thing that hasn't been created, to do the thing that hasn't been done, you do have to see a vision and create something that hasn't been created before. But to get there from the current status quo, one of the reasons it hasn't been walked by so many people is because the road to get there is really narrow. The path to get there, what's available to get there, is really narrow. In some ways, for example, this design the future idea is better suited for right now than it's ever been suited in the history of the world, because we just went through a global pandemic that pushed digital technologies, digital interface technologies, to a level that we've never seen before. There have been new developments, and so many of the softwares that we are going to end up using, completely new softwares, have come online or have come to the attention of the world that wouldn't have been created or wouldn't have come to people's attention otherwise. And that means that we have an opportunity where there wasn't one otherwise, right? So the narrow pathway maybe got a little bit wider right now. We need to figure out how we're going to walk that. So that is my message for you today. I just wanted to bring you this real-time, real-world example of what it means to work through the details, what it means to work through the weeds of social impact issues and social impact challenges. There are so many pieces that have to be figured out, and I think about this for everything that DC Design does or has done. Right? We have to figure out how we get to the other side. How do we get to the other that other building with what we know right now? And a lot of times that means pulling in new things. It means learning new skills. It means applying those new skills immediately upon learning them. It means adapting materials that existed before. It means developing new visions in the middle. It means solving problems that come up as a part of solving the bigger problem that you're trying to solve. But that is the reality of what it means to do this work. So the more you can flex that skill, the more you can develop that, the more you can accept that to get to the vision that you have is going to be an unforeseeable path. And there are going to be obstacles on that path that you just have to trust you can overcome. The more you can accept that, the more successful I think you can be as a social entrepreneur, as an innovator, as a change maker, and as a catalyst in the world. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Have you been in the weeds before? Do you understand, what I'm saying here? Does this resonate with you? Tell me about a time when you've sort of seen the vision, you've seen the past, and you found yourself in the weeds, and what you did to get through that. Or tell me about a time where you saw the vision in the future, but you got stuck, and you just didn't have the faith to move through the weeds that you saw along the way. I would love to hear that from you, and I'll see you tomorrow on another episode of Social Impact Live. If you like this, as always, like, follow, subscribe, and please share it with someone who you know is going through a similar journey. All right, that's what I got for you today.